somebody that's filing a frivolous suit or they're involved in a way with something, we all ultimately pay for that. If an insurance company has to pay somebody $20,000 to make it go away because it's better than spending $50,000 on lawyers' fees to defend against it, that $20,000 that the insurance company paid, the insurance company didn't pay it, trust me. We're all going to pay it eventually.
That's right.
In higher premiums, or a business is going to be rated at a higher risk than it should.
Right.
Because now it all goes into risk factors. Insurance companies know they can look at you and tell you what kind of a risk you are. They know their businesses. They've been doing this for a long, long time, and they can tell by the application process where the dangers lie. And so if they see a trend where a danger like a YouTube video editing company suddenly is getting, there's 20 or 30 of them and they have horrific losses over time, I can tell you that the amount of money that you're going to start spending on insurance premiums is going to go through the roof because of the fact that this business risk is now worse than what they thought. That's what will happen.
It's just interesting as society grows and new things change, how insurance companies arise. Like pet insurance obviously didn't exist 50 years ago when pets weren't the big craze. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that San Francisco, there's more pets than kids there.
Supply and demand.
I would believe
so
that.
Supply and demand is like interesting. Like instead of just the entertainment industry, there's probably like YouTube, there's people are having their own individual channels and having their own individual success. So where somebody can just wake up one day, start a YouTube channel, and hopefully with, time, persistence, and knowledge, they can make it grow. But what about insurance for somebody like that? Like there's probably going to be a demand and a change for different insurance as time goes on, obviously.
Absolutely.
And it's a growing field as I see it, because like you said, as times change, the more demands there are for, different types of insurances, like pet insurance. People used to just keep their dogs outside. They were more for protection or whatever. And so now they're actually pets, where they're, in the home. I see people traveling with their pets, and they're a family member now. And so there's the requirement for pet insurance for health reasons and otherwise. So,
well, I think you two raise a really good point. So there's two things that I wanted to say about the pet insurance and then this whole business colliding thing. Pet insurance is a perfect example of I think, what can happen to insurance companies. So everyone complains about insurance right up to the point where they need it.
Yeah.
Right? So the moment you have a claim, I've never heard anybody say, wow, I wish I didn't have this much insurance.
That's right.
Okay? Nobody ever says that. They always say, wow, I wish I had more. Okay? So the first point is, that's the value of talking to somebody. The internet's wonderful for many things. Mm-hmm. In my personal opinion, being an agent, shopping for insurance is not one of them. Yes, it's good for comparative purposes. But if you don't fully understand what's required to be covered appropriately, then all you're going to do when you go to some of these websites is they're going to say, how much do you want to spend a month? And you're going to say $100, and it's going to give you a policy. But unless you understand the potential exposure that you have on that $100 car policy, then you could be in for a big, big surprise if something wrong happens. So that's why I encourage people, I don't care who their insurance is with. I don't care if we never do business. At least if you're a friend of mine or a colleague of mine or someone I know, let me look at it. Mm-hmm. And so if I look at it, I can tell you, listen, here's where I think the pitfalls are. You can go back to that company and make adjustments. If you want to do business with me, that's fine. You can even just take the information and say, fine, I won't do anything with it. But at least now you don't have the excuse of ignorance. You know what the pitfalls are. Right. And you can make then the right decision whether or not to go forward and cover it properly or not cover it properly. It's up to you. But nothing would be worse to find out afterwards that, I had no idea that I'm now responsible for this beyond this amount. So at least then you would know. The other thing is, for instance, pet insurance. I have a colleague of mine that I know from another insurance company. She has 2 dogs, large dogs. I think they're like a Mastiff mix. She says they're really nice, but they look scary to me on
Fully
Facebook.
breeds.
So I stay away from them. She got them at the same time. It's a brother-sister dog. The one, I think it's the male. He's had problems, right? So from the time she got them as puppies, she had pet insurance on these dogs. I think she's had them for 3 years now. She pays, I think it's either $85 for both a month or $85 a piece. I'm not exactly sure which one, so I apologize for not knowing exactly. But here's the point. One of the dogs has had a series of sinus infections. The final cure for this dog was for the vet to go in, crack its skull, go in and clean out the infection, and put the dog back together. It was a $14,000 operation. Her insurance company, when she called them about that, said, one, it was covered 100%. Number two, she said, what's going to happen to my premiums? And they said, nothing.
Wow.
So here's the thing about the insurance business. Insurance companies take a risk too.
Yeah.
I know nobody's going to feel sorry for them. I had a client that had been with he'd been with his car insurance company for 20 some odd years. He walked into our office. I started a dialogue with him. A couple weeks later, I wrote his 4 cars, switched him over to the company that I was with at the time. He had been with us for a month, and he had a car accident. The first car accident he's had in 33 years of driving. His car was a $24,000 total loss. It completely wrecked his Camry. At that point in time, we had collected 2 months' worth of premiums from him. Okay, so his cars were, I think he was paying us $250 a month. Farmers had collected $500 for him. We paid him $24,000 to cover his claim. He's about my age. He's like in his early 50s. Farmers will never make money off that account, ever.
Right.
Ever. Because he will stop driving before he will pay enough in premium to what we just did. Remember, if you pay $100 for car insurance, that $100 doesn't go to just the insurance cost. It goes for the overhead. They have to pay commissions. They have to pay for the lights and the rental of the building and all that stuff. So a very small portion of that goes into effect. Same thing with a young man that came to me. He had a Dodge Challenger. He had it for 8 months. He wrecked it. He called me at 2:30 in the morning, scared like crazy because he just got totaled out. We paid him off $32,000 for the car. He paid us $200 a month for 8 months. We paid him $32,000 to fix his car. He's 33 years old now. They'll never make, if he stays with us forever, we'll never make a dime off of him. And insurance companies have thousands of customers on the books where they will never earn a profit. And I don't know very many businesses or industries that could keep huge amounts of people on their books and never make a dime. So it's pretty remarkable that they can do that. Now, other people will say, well, yeah, they're making it off of me because they charge me too much, blah, blah, blah. But trust me, if you're one of those people who needs it, you'll never pay an insurance company more than they will pay you if you actually have a catastrophic claim, ever. If your house burns down, there's no way they'll ever collect enough premiums from you to pay for what they paid you for to rebuild that house. It'll never happen.
Right. So
I never even thought of that.
They're hedged against themselves, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, by law, they have to have enough money to pay out a certain percentages of the premiums at any given time. That's why a risk like earthquake isn't covered anymore. It's the potential for them to go belly up by paying tens of thousands of dollars.
In California,
thousands of claims.
Right.
You know, if a building gets knocked down, it costs $300,000 to repair a modest-sized home here in California.
That's very true.
And if you start multiplying that by 1,000 homes, it's a lot of money.
No, I literally feel like I'm going to catch myself like trying to figure out how to just work straight from home, insure everything, and then never leave my house. Because it's literally like, what's going to happen?
Call me.
I'll call you. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll have a very informative conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, I like that the way you put it. You know, we can't cover 100% of everything because then we wouldn't have any money left to do the things we need to do. But we should at least cover ourselves so that we can sleep at night in the areas that we need to have covered.
That's right. A good agent will work with your budget. Everybody has one. I have one. I don't cover myself to the level that I'd like to. I have a budget, and I cover myself as best I can. I'm smart about it. There's some risk that I'm willing to offset. For instance, on my car, I'm willing to pay more out of pocket for my deductible to get higher liability coverage, because higher liability coverage can be hundreds of thousands of dollars in coverage versus the difference between me paying $1,000 to fix my car and $1,500 to fix my car. To give up an extra $500, if I can get another $200,000 in liability, I'll do that all day long. It's an easy thought, because we all get distracted driving. We all get blinded by the sun, especially here in Southern California. I don't care who you are. We all text and drive. Nobody should be texting and driving except for me.
No one should
as
be
an
texting
insurance
and
professional.
driving.
I can text and drive. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody
You
should be
need
texting
to know
and
what it
driving.
feels like so you can inform
No, that's not all. No. But I mean, even people, you reach down to change your television channel, you drop, your radio channel. Not that you would change this radio channel.
Never.
But you drop something, so people take their eyes off the wheel all the time. There's an interesting stat about traveling in a car. Makeup, exactly.
Makeup.
So at 60 miles an hour, you know what, I'm going to embarrass myself because the math's going to be poor. The point is, if you, in the blink of an eye, you travel something like 76 feet if you're traveling 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
So imagine if you glance at your phone for just 2 seconds, how far down the line you have actually gone, and you don't even realize you've traveled that far. So you have to pay attention behind the wheel.
Gotta be careful.
Exactly.
I love our sound effects.
That's
They're
perfect.
amazing. It's just interesting though, like as a new business owner, you know, you always start off with the littlest because you're a new business owner.
Mm-hmm.
But like, when are you locked into that, or when can you evolve? Like, if you want, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Great question, Elizabeth. So the whole idea behind, and this is why I think it's important to not necessarily shop it online. It's a good smell test to make sure that it's okay. But the relationship that you have with an agent is ongoing. It should not be it's a one-time thing. I think a lot of frustration for business owners is they see their agent once a year upon renewal when they're saying, hey, guess what? Your insurance went up 10%. Here's the new bill. I'll see you later. I like to run the business so that I'm constantly throughout the year interacting with that office, with my clients, if anything, just to see how things are going. But if their needs change, you want to know that. Like I have a client in downtown, he runs a women and children's clothing wholesale business. Mm-hmm. He's constantly adding vehicles, adding drivers, taking things off, expanding his operations. If I saw him once a year and something happened between renewals, he wouldn't be covered well at all. So you want to, your agent shouldn't be pestering you and calling you every day, but they should at least be checking in with you at a regular basis and letting you know, by the way, call me when something comes up.
Yeah.
If something changes, call me first.
So you can like change it throughout in the middle?
You can. There's adjustments. Like, for instance, I have this one client right now that they're changing locations, and the new location requires plate glass window coverage, because they're moving into one of these big fancy buildings. So they're responsible, if the plate glass window in front of their location, they're responsible for that. So we're gonna get them plate glass window coverage. There is such a thing. Somebody does write it. It'll be endorsed to their policy. I don't know what it's gonna cost them. I can't imagine it's gonna be a lot, because really, who's gonna break a plate glass window? The whole idea is hopefully they're not the kind of business where they're throwing things around in the office, and that can happen.
Right.
You never know. But the point is that that's the kind of dialogue that you have going on, so that as those needs change, your agent can make adjustments. There are some things that you don't necessarily want to do. It's never a wise idea necessarily to change a commercial business policy in mid-year. It can be done. You have to be very careful. Your agent should help you with that. Some commercial policies have a early cancellation penalty. Okay. So you'd want to know what that is. Personal lines policies, your auto, your home, typically do not. So you can change those just about any time during the year. Yeah.
I did not know that. Mm-hmm. I guess if I were to, I'm getting to the point now where sometimes I catch myself being overwhelmed, even me and my partner, and we have two people that we're interested in potentially bringing on board, one for helping us film, one for helping us edit. Would I, if I hired them, have to insure them, or is there a way to hire them to not have to insure them?
Okay, so, all right. So first of all, the business itself, think of the business as something completely different than you and your partner. Right?
Yes.
So the business is its own entity, it's its own being, and it requires insurance. Mm-hmm. Okay? So and whatever anyone is doing in the name of the business means that they would also be covered under the business.
Got it. Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Now, it's a little bit dicey because there's a lot of things going on between subcontractors and people that you just hired to do a temporary job versus someone who's there full time. Once they are a full-time employee, then they're protected by the business. I think it gets a little bit dicey again if you're just hiring, a programmer over in India for a couple of days and they do something wrong. There's a lot of information within the policy itself that you really need to understand if you have a policy in effect. Then you also get into the whole workers' compensation side of the business, and so that there's state requirements. California is very rigid with workers' comp, and it basically requires that you are protecting workers against workplace injury or disease. So you have to be able to protect them in the event that something happens at work. Now, it's usually, if you're an office type business, it's usually, I don't want to say it's inexpensive. It's as inexpensive as it's going to get if you're working in an office. If you're a roofer or you're in a hazardous job, it's going to be very expensive to cover. So,
Yeah, I can
so under
imagine.
those circumstances, you may need workers' comp at some
I
point.
like fall off my work desk and I'm like, whoa.
Paper cuts, man. You can be
Exactly.
sued
Paper
like
cuts.
crazy for
Yeah.
paper cut. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
You're listening to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. I am Miss Charlene, and we have Mike Brulette in the studio with us today from Beach Financial.